Once again, those who insist on twisting everything to suit their own agendas appeared, trying to distort what happened and only making themselves look foolish. They tried to claim that Taehyung bought himself the Chrome Hearts cashmere sweater during his visit to Los Angeles, pretending it was a gift from Jungkook, when in this story that was never the case. Again, they started talking without checking anything, without understanding dates or availability, and they dragged Taehyung into assumptions that don't fit with what actually happened in this fan narrative. The curious thing is that they repeat these ideas as if they were solid, when they fall apart with just a little more scrutiny. That sweater belongs to the limited edition November collection, an exclusive line that wasn't available in physical stores in Los Angeles at that time. To get it there, you had to order it and wait about a week, because it came from Japan. That alone debunks the fabricated theory, and here's what many overlook: Taehyung was only in Los Angeles for 3 days. There wasn't time for orders or expedited deliveries, or magical coincidences. Even so, many continued trying to rewrite history, as if repeating something often enough made it true. They're even now trying to drag Namjoon into pointless arguments, attempting to deny that Jungkook lovingly chose the sweater Namjoon wore on September 4th within this narrative. But that sweater has no connection to Taehyung's cashmere heart-shaped sweater, which was officially released in November and belongs to a different line. They're different pieces, from different moments and contexts. There's no way to link them without forcing the issue. And here's another detail some avoid: Taehyung's sweater choice was a personal touch within the script, intended by Jungkook as a special gesture, requiring no further explanation. The curious thing is that this isn't the first time they've tried to deny something clearly established in the narrative itself. It had already happened when Taehyung proudly showed off his blue Moncler shoes shortly after Jungkook returned from the United States in November 2023. At that time, they also juggled claims that they weren't related, that it wasn't a gift, and that it was all a coincidence. But the blue model was only available in the United States, not in Korea, and that, within the narrative, made it clear where they came from. Even so, some insisted on contradicting this, even though each piece fit together without the need for convoluted explanations. Every time these details within this story are examined, the same pattern emerges: those who try to deny everything end up contradicting themselves. They rely on ideas that don't align with dates, releases, or availability, and in the end, the version they try to promote doesn't withstand simple scrutiny. Meanwhile, the gestures between Jungkook and Taehyung within this fan narrative remain there, calm, without unnecessary embellishment. There's no need to exaggerate them or make them into something huge. Simply looking at them as they are makes everything effortless. They also remember that moment when Taehyung wore that Luxor cashmere sweater that Jungkook had given him, and those who follow Taekook always remember that moment because nothing needed to be said. The way Tae adjusted the sweater and the way Jungkook looked at him explained everything. Between them, a simple gesture has always been enough to show that they put each other first, that they take care of each other without needing words, and that this constant attention is a natural part of what they share. For years they have been like this, quiet, attentive, gentle with each other, with that affection that doesn't need noise, just details that speak for themselves. Sometimes it's surprising to see how they pamper each other, not because of the price of things, but because of how they choose them. CH sweaters, Moncler shoes, Celine sweatshirts, Balenciaga, gold gloves, even Mexican popsicles, each object has been chosen calmly and with the other in mind. And although many people focus on the material, what always catches the eye is the intention behind it. They know they can buy whatever they want, but what truly matters is thinking of the other person, imagining their reaction, picturing them wearing something you chose. That's what makes these gestures feel so personal. But the most beautiful things aren't always the most expensive. There are smaller gifts that also show what they're like when they're together. When Jungkook was a trainee in the United States, he bought a t-shirt thinking of himself and Taehyung, something simple yet special. That gesture, so natural and so says more than any long sentence. And Taehyung has been just as thoughtful. When he gave Jungkook that perfume, he said it with that characteristic mix of shyness and affection. My baby might smell something strange at night. He was direct, honest, and sweet, and in the end, he confessed that the gift was from him. Pictures of them when they were younger always evoke tenderness. From the beginning, you could see how they cared for each other and how attentive they were to one another. Those spontaneous reactions, like Jungkook's laughter as he showed Tae's gift and told the story behind it, or the way he shared the fans' expressions, made everything feel intimate. When he showed Tae the fan Taehyung had given him, his smile seemed impossible to hide, as if he simply couldn't contain his delight. And then came that hug where they seemed to forget the world they were filming, but the two of them were in their own moment, unconcerned about the camera. There are also the two hats Jungkook bought for them, the red jacket, and all those seemingly simple objects that hold special value because they were chosen with an image of the other in mind. These are details given not out of obligation, but because they genuinely enjoy giving each other things they'll use together or that remind them of a shared experience. And, of course, there's that unforgettable snow globe. Jungkook made it thinking of Taehyung, watching him play with a small teddy bear. It was such a natural and typical gesture from him, something done calmly and affectionately, without needing to draw attention to himself. Taehyung's reaction when he realized it was for him is always touching, his eyes, the way he was surprised, and the gentle expression that came to him without thinking. It's one of those moments that many rewatch because it conveys something very simple, yet very real, between them. Every detail, every small object, and every gesture fits together like pieces of the same story. They aren't grand speeches or exaggerated actions, it's the way they look at each other, support each other, and choose each other in everyday life that makes all these memories continue to resonate. Although it may sometimes seem like a small thing, the way they interact with each other always catches the attention of anyone who observes them closely. It's not something they do because someone asks them to or because they have to meet an expectation. It arises spontaneously. The gestures they share, the glances they exchange, and the way they connect even when they're not speaking say more than anyone could explain. Everything feels natural, as if that kind of closeness only appears when they're together. It's not an attitude Jungkook has with everyone, nor a way Taehyung repeats with anyone else, and that's what makes every movement between them seem so personal. It's the kind of detail you notice without meaning to, and then suddenly can't stop observing, because there always seems to be something more there, something they don't try to hide but also don't emphasize. It simply happens. Pictures of them when they were younger always evoke a special feeling. From the beginning, you could see how they were attentive to each other without needing to draw attention to themselves. They cared for each other with simple gestures, small actions that passed quickly but made it clear they had already found their own comfort zone. In those early scenes, there were easy laughs, shared silences, and that way they leaned slightly toward each other, as if it were an automatic movement. Those moments remain just as warm when viewed now. One can see how that connection, which began with such simple things, never disappeared. It simply evolved with them. There are scenes that always come back to mind, like the time Jungkook showed the gift Taehyung had given him. His expression didn't need many words. The smile he was trying to suppress said it all. It was one of those smiles that appear unexpectedly, that come when you truly love something. As he told the story behind the gift, his laughter was light, almost shy, yet it revealed how much it meant to him. He shared it with the fans with a surprising naturalness, as if he weren't worried about showing how much those little things Taehyung did for him affected him. It was a simple gesture, but in that simplicity lay a closeness that anyone could immediately recognize. There was also the way Jungkook, without realizing it, spoke of other people's expressions, especially Taehyung's. He seemed to enjoy describing those details, as if they were part of a mental archive he'd kept for a long time. When he showed the fan he'd received, his eyes shone in a different way. It wasn't an exaggerated emotion, but that quiet spark you see when something is familiar and dear to you. And even though he didn't say it aloud, it was clear that the gesture carried more weight than it seemed. It was as if his reaction escaped before he could think of hiding it, revealing that side of him that only appears in very specific situations. Sometimes it seems that even they aren't aware of how much their gestures betray them. Jungkook looks at Taehyung in a way he doesn't do with anyone else. It's not an intense or contrived look, it's simple, calm, and direct. A glance that lingers a little longer than usual, just long enough for the observer to notice something special. Taehyung, for his part, approaches Jungkook with a naturalness that needs no explanation. The closeness between them forms almost without them seeking it. There are moments when a small movement, a light touch, or a slight tilt of the body is enough for one to realize that the space between them seems to have been reserved for a long time, even when they are surrounded by people and noise.